The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a deep rumbling sound that echoed through the enormous space. Ambassador Hyunwoo had walked through these doors hundreds of times over the past 20 years, but today felt different. Today the air itself seemed heavy with tension and unspoken secrets. The chamber was huge beyond imagination, with seats arranged in perfect circles that rose up toward a dome ceiling painted with stars from across the galaxy. Each seat was designed for a different alien species. Some were tall and narrow for the bird-like aviarians, others were wide and low for the heavy-set rocklings. In the center of it all was the speaking platform, where decisions that affected billions of lives were made. Hyunwoo took his place at the human delegation table. His hands were steady, but his heart was beating faster than normal. Something was wrong. He could feel it in the way the other delegates avoided looking at him, the way conversations stopped when he walked, by the way his usual allies among the friendlier species seemed nervous and distracted. Jihai, his communications officer, leaned over and whispered in his ear. Her voice was tight with worry. "Sir, I have been monitoring the private channels. Something big is happening. The Altarians have been sending encrypted messages to every other species for the past 3 days. We cannot break the code, but the volume of traffic is unprecedented." Before Hyunwoo could respond, the great bell of the council rang 3 times. The sound was so deep and powerful that it seemed to vibrate through his bones. Every conversation in the chamber stopped immediately. All eyes turned to the central platform, where council speaker Zarthon was rising from his ornate chair. The Altarian was ancient, even by his people's standards. His blue skin had faded to an almost silver color, and his tall frame moved with the careful precision of someone who had lived for over 3 centuries. His 4 arms spread wide in the traditional gesture of council authority. Fellow beings of the Galactic Council. He began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's advanced acoustics. Today, we gather to address a matter of utmost importance to the safety and stability of our civilized galaxy. Hyunwoo felt a cold knot forming in his stomach. The formal tone and serious atmosphere could only mean one thing. A major decision was about to be announced. And from the way everyone was avoiding his eyes, he suspected it involved Earth. For 50 standard years, the species known as humans have been members of this council. Zarthon continued. They arrived from their small blue world with promises of cooperation and peaceful coexistence. We welcomed them as we have welcomed all species who showed potential for growth and harmony. The Altarian paused, and for the first time his ancient eyes looked directly at Hyunwoo. However, time has shown us that initial impressions can be deceiving. The human species has proven to be fundamentally incompatible with the values and goals of civilized galactic society. The words hit Hyunwoo like a physical blow. He started to rise from his seat, but Captain Dongmin placed a firm hand on his shoulder. The military attaché shook his head slightly, warning him to wait and listen. Evidence has been presented to this council that demonstrates a pattern of concerning behavior. Zarthon continued. Humans expand their territory at twice the rate of any other species they consume natural resources without regard for sustainability. They have been involved in more military conflicts than all other council members combined. That is not true. Hyunwoo finally stood up, his voice echoing through the chamber. Every military action we have taken has been defensive. We have never started a war. We have only defended ourselves and our allies. The Zephyrian delegate rose next. His 6 head swaying in what Hyunwoo had learned was a gesture of disagreement. The humans speak of defense, but their definition is broad. They consider any threat to their expansion as grounds for military response. They have built more warships in the past decade than the rest of us combined because we have had to. Hyunwoo shot back the pirates in the outer systems, the rogue AI uprising on Kepler Prime, the invasion attempts by the Machine Collective. We have fought these threats while the rest of you debated whether to act at all. This is exactly the problem, hissed the Serpentine Kethera representative, her forked tongue flickering as she spoke. Humans always choose violence as their first solution. They do not understand patience. They do not value careful deliberation. They act first and consider consequences later. The accusations kept coming like waves crashing against a shore. Each species took their turn listing complaints about human behavior. Some were legitimate concerns that could be addressed through discussion. Others were clearly exaggerated or taken out of context. But Hyunwoo was beginning to realize that logic and facts were not going to matter today. Dr. Young-suk, the Earth Science attaché, stood up with her datapad in hand. "Honored delegates," she said, her voice calm and professional. "Perhaps we could review the actual statistics. Human colonies have the highest environmental protection ratings in the galaxy. Our medical research has saved over 2 billion lives across 14 different species. Our engineering projects have..." Enough, interrupted the Rock Mother. Representative, her stone-like features showing no emotion. "We have heard these claims before. Yes, humans have contributed to council projects, but at what cost? Your species spreads like a plague, consuming everything in its path. You cannot see beyond your own immediate needs." The debate continued for hours, but Hyunwoo could see that minds were already made up. This was not a discussion or a trial. This was a ceremony. The decision had been made in those encrypted communications Ji-hai had detected. The public debate was just for show. Finally, Council Speaker Zarthon called for order. The chamber fell silent again as he raised all 4 of his arms, after careful consideration and extensive deliberation. This council has reached a unanimous decision. The human species is hereby expelled from the Galactic Council. All human diplomatic personnel must withdraw from council space within 72 standard hours. All human colonies and outposts in council territory must be evacuated within the same time frame. Any human presence remaining after this period will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. The words seemed to echo forever in the sudden silence. Hyunwoo felt the world spinning around him. 50 years of friendship, 50 years of cooperation, 50 years of shared victories and mutual support. All of it wiped away in a single vote. Ji-hai was crying silently beside him. Captain Dongmin was staring at the floor, his hands clenched into fists. Dr. Young-suk was frantically taking notes as if recording the details could somehow make sense of the betrayal. But what hurt most was seeing the faces of the other delegates. The ones who had worked alongside humans for decades. The ones who had celebrated joint achievements and mourned shared losses. They could not look at him. Their shame was obvious but not strong enough to change their votes. "You are making a terrible mistake," Hyunwoo said finally, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "We have been your allies. We have bled for this council. We have died defending worlds that were not even our own." The Altarian speaker nodded slowly. "Perhaps, but we cannot take the risk any longer. Your species is too dangerous, too unpredictable. The decision is final." As the session ended and delegates began filing out, Hyunwoo remained standing at his table. He watched species that had once called humans their friends walk past without a word. Some looked ashamed. Others looked relieved. A few looked genuinely sad, but none of them stopped to explain or apologize when the chamber was finally empty. Except for the human delegation, Hyunwoo sank into his chair. The weight of what had just happened was beginning to settle on his shoulders. 200 million humans living in colonies across the galaxy would have to abandon their homes. Decades of scientific research would be lost. Diplomatic relationships built over half a century were destroyed in a single afternoon. Sir Ji-hai said quietly, "We are receiving emergency transmissions from all the human colonies. The news is spreading fast. Some alien authorities are already demanding immediate evacuation. Others are threatening to seize human assets if we do not comply quickly." Hyunwoo nodded slowly. "Then, we need to move fast. Get me a priority channel to Earth Command, President. So Young needs to know what has happened and start coordinating with all colony administrators. We have 72 hours to save as many lives as possible as they prepared." To leave the council chamber for the last time, Hyunwoo took one final look around the space where humanity had once had a voice in galactic affairs. The empty seats seemed to mock him. The painted stars on the ceiling that had once represented hope now felt cold and distant. But beneath his shock and sadness, something else was growing. Something harder and more determined. The galaxy had just made a terrible mistake. They thought they were getting rid of a problem. But what they had actually done was force humanity to stand alone, and humans had always been at their most dangerous when they had nothing left to lose. Admiral Inho stood on the bridge of the Starship Resilience watching the final systems checks scroll across his display screens. This was not just any ship. This was the first vessel built with the combined knowledge of every human colony that had ever existed in space. The fusion engines used breakthrough technology from the Vega mining worlds. The hull incorporated materials, science from the Kepler research stations. The navigation systems combined Earth computing with techniques learned from decades of deep space exploration. All systems green. Captain Yejin reported from her station. Hyperdrive efficiency is reading 300% above standard Galactic Council specifications. Weapon systems are integrated and ready. Defensive shields are operating at maximum capacity. Inho smiled as he looked at the data. The Resilience was faster than any Altarian cruiser, more heavily armed than any Kythera destroyer, and more advanced than anything the Galactic Council had ever built. And this was just the first ship humanity was building. Dozens more launch when ready, he ordered. The ship slipped away from Earth orbit like a silver arrow cutting through space. Within hours, it was beyond the solar system and jumping into hyperspace toward regions the Council had never even mapped. The age of human expansion was beginning again, but this time, humanity was not alone. On the bridge of the exploration vessel, New Horizon Captain Hei-Wan was reviewing the most recent scout reports. Her ship was part of a fleet of 20 vessels searching for worlds humanity could claim. The difference was that half her crew was not human. The insectoid engineers from the hive builder species worked alongside human technicians, the nomadic star wanderers, shared navigation techniques that opened entirely new regions of space. Report from Scout Team 7. She announced to her bridge crew, "We have located a system with 3 habitable worlds, rich mineral deposits, and perfect positioning for establishing new trade routes." The Galactic Council never found it because they were too focused on fighting over systems they already controlled. Communications Officer Min-jae looked up from his station. "Captain, we are receiving messages from the hive builder, Homeworld. They report that construction of the new orbital stations is ahead of schedule. The joint human-insect architecture they are using is proving more efficient than anything either species built alone." This partnership had begun 18 months earlier when President So-young made a decision that surprised everyone. Instead of trying to rejoin the Galactic Council, she started reaching out to species the Council had ignored. The insectoid hive builders had been dismissed as primitive because they did not use traditional technology, but their organic engineering methods complemented human innovation perfectly. Foreign Minister Sung Ho had been the first to make contact with these forgotten species. The Star Wanderers roamed the galaxy in great fleets, never settling on any world. The Council considered them irrelevant because they had no fixed territory, but they possessed navigation knowledge that had been gathered over thousands of years of exploration. The meeting with Saitawadim, the hive builder queen, had been unlike any diplomatic encounter in human history. The massive insect ruler communicated through chemical signals that human translators barely understood. But when human engineers showed her their construction techniques, and she shared her people's organic building methods, the results were revolutionary. "Your people build with metal and energy," the queen had said through her translators. "Our people build with living materials that grow and adapt. When we combine these methods, we create structures that are both strong and alive." The first joint project had been an orbital station around Earth that incorporated both human technology and hive builder organic engineering. The station grew rather than being assembled. It adapted to changing conditions. It repaired itself when damaged. Within months, every major power in the galaxy was trying to figure out how it worked. Dr. Bitna, who headed the expanded research division, was amazed by what the partnerships were, producing human adaptability combined with hive builder precision and star wanderer knowledge, was solving problems that had stumped civilizations for centuries. "We have breakthrough after breakthrough," she reported to the Leadership Council. "The hyperdrive efficiency improvements, the new materials that are stronger than anything previously known, the energy systems that waste nothing. These discoveries are happening because we are combining knowledge that was never combined before. The breakthroughs were not just technological. The Human Alliance, as it was now being called, was developing new forms of government and society. Jin-A, who had been a refugee coordinator, was now helping to create governing systems that actually worked. Unlike the Galactic Council with its endless bureaucracy and power struggles, the Alliance made decisions quickly and fairly. Every species contributes according to their strengths, she explained to a gathering of Alliance representatives. Humans provide adaptability and innovation. Hive builders offer precision and organic engineering. Star Wanderers contribute navigation and exploration knowledge. No one species dominates because everyone benefits from cooperation. Word of the Alliance spread quickly through the galaxy. Species that had been ignored by the Galactic Council started sending delegations. The free traders who operated in frontier regions began requesting Alliance protection from pirates. The Council could not be bothered to stop small independent worlds that had been bullied by larger powers. Asked to join an organization that promised true partnership. Captain Da-Yun, now Admiral of the Alliance fleet, was overseeing military operations that impressed even veteran Earth commanders. The Alliance fleet used ships built with combined technologies and crewed by multiple species working together. Human tactical knowledge merged with hive builder defensive strategies, and Star Wanderer mobility created fighting forces unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Council is starting to panic, she reported during a strategic meeting. Our intelligence networks report emergency sessions where they are discussing the Alliance threat. They never expected us to become this powerful, this quickly, President. So Young reviewed the latest reports with satisfaction. In just 2 years, the Human Alliance had grown from a desperate refugee organization to a galactic power that controlled more territory than the Council itself. Their ships were superior, their colonies more prosperous, and their technology decades ahead of anything Council worlds possessed. Foreign Minister Sung Ho brought news that would have seemed impossible during the dark days of the evacuation. 18 different species have applied for Alliance membership this month. He announced species that were Council members for centuries are defecting to join us. The economic benefits of Alliance cooperation are becoming impossible to ignore. The transformation was visible everywhere. Alliance colonies were thriving in regions the Council had considered uninhabitable. The new hyperdrive technology allowed expansion into distant sectors that had never been explored. Trade routes controlled by the Alliance were generating wealth. The dwarfed Council commerce engineer Malsuk, whose fusion breakthrough had started the technological revolution, was now leading research teams that included scientists from 12 different species. The diversity of knowledge and perspective was producing innovations at an unprecedented rate. We are not just building better technology, she explained to visiting dignitaries. We are creating entirely new ways of thinking about problems. When you combine human creativity with hive builder, methodology, and Star Wanderer wisdom, you get solutions that none of us could achieve alone. The Council was beginning to realize the scope of their mistake. Intelligence reports indicated panic in Council chambers as they watched their former victims become their superiors. Species that had voted to expel humanity were now watching Alliance fleets patrol space they had once controlled. Alliance colonies were establishing themselves in systems the Council had claimed as their exclusive territory. Admiral Inho received orders to begin the next phase of expansion. The Alliance had identified over 100 systems with habitable worlds that the Council had never bothered to explore. Their new ships could reach these distant regions in weeks rather than months. The galaxy was about to become much larger. Captain Haywan was preparing for the most ambitious mission yet. A deep space exploration fleet would venture beyond the galactic rim to investigate reports of entire sectors that remained unexplored. The Star Wanderers claimed there were civilizations out there that had never been contacted by anyone, but the most significant development was happening in Alliance space itself. The partnership between species was creating something unprecedented in galactic history. Cities where humans worked alongside insectoids and nomads, research stations where different forms of intelligence combined their knowledge, fleets where ships of radically different design operated in perfect coordination. The galaxy had expelled humanity because they were afraid of human potential. Now they were discovering that their fears had been completely justified. Humanity had not just survived their expulsion, they had used it to build something far more powerful than anything they had lost. The Alliance was ready to show the galaxy what cooperation could achieve. Council Speaker Zarthon stood before the emergency assembly of the Galactic Council, his forearms trembling with age and fear. The ancient Altarian had called hundreds of these meetings over his long lifetime, but never one like this. The holographic displays around the chamber showed data that terrified every delegate present. The Human Alliance now controls more territory than our entire council. He announced, his voice carrying the weight of inevitable doom. Their fleet numbers exceed ours by a factor of 3. Their technology makes our most advanced ships look like primitive relics, and their expansion shows no signs of slowing. The Zephyrian delegate shifted nervously in his seat, all 6 of his heads turning to examine the tactical displays. "How is this possible?" he asked. "We expelled them because they were dangerous to galactic stability. We were supposed to eliminate the threat, not make it worse." Zarthon activated another set of displays showing Alliance territory expanding across the galaxy map. In 5 years, they have established 73 colonies in regions we considered uninhabitable. They control the most profitable trade routes in 4 sectors. Species that have been council members for centuries are defecting to join them. The Serpentine Kithra representative hissed in frustration. "Our economic projections show the Alliance will surpass our total production within 18 months. Their technological advances are making our industries obsolete. Their medical discoveries are making our healthcare systems look primitive." Around the chamber, other delegates were studying reports that painted an increasingly desperate picture. The Alliance had not just survived their expulsion, they had used it to become everything the Council had feared and more. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, their defenses impenetrable. Their colonies thrived in conditions that would kill most other species. The great doors of the chamber opened and Ambassador Hyunwoo entered, flanked by Captain Dayun and Dr. Oksun. The same human who had been humiliated in this chamber 5 years earlier now walked with the confidence of someone representing the most powerful force in the galaxy. His uniform bore the insignia of the Human Alliance, a symbol that now commanded respect and fear across known space. He approached the speaker platform where Council Speaker Zarthon waited. The ancient Altarian who had once dismissed humanity as too primitive for civilized society now looked old and frail compared to the human ambassador who represented over 200 allied species, Ambassador Hyunwoo. The council speaker began, his voice barely concealing his desperation. "We have called this emergency session to discuss the current state of galactic affairs. The Alliance expansion has created certain tensions that we believe could be resolved through negotiation." Hyunwoo smiled calmly as he activated his own holographic displays. "Honored delegates," he said with perfect diplomatic courtesy, "we are here as a courtesy to inform you of Alliance policies that will affect this region of space. We are not here to negotiate." The displays showed Alliance territory stretching across vast regions of the galaxy systems that had been unexplored when humanity was expelled, now hosted thriving Alliance colonies. Trade routes that connected distant sectors now carried Alliance ships protecting merchant vessels from pirates the Council had ignored. Captain Dayun stepped forward with her own announcement. "The Alliance fleet has established security patrols in 17 sectors, where Council authority has proven inadequate. Our ships will ensure safe passage for all civilian traffic, regardless of species or political affiliation." The implications were staggering. The Alliance was not asking for permission to operate in Council space. They were simply announcing their intentions. The Council that had once expelled humanity for being too aggressive was now being informed that human ships would patrol their territory whether they liked it or not. But what truly shocked the Council delegates was what Dr. Oksun announced next. The Alliance Medical Consortium will be providing free health care to any world that requests assistance, she said, activating displays showing breakthrough treatments for dozens of diseases. "We have developed cures for Zephyrian bone rot, treatments for Altarian neural decay, and solutions to the Kithara reproductive crisis." The chamber fell silent as the full scope of Alliance generosity became clear. They were offering their greatest technological advances freely to anyone who needed them, including their former enemies. This was not the behavior of conquerors. This was something the Council had never encountered. "You are making us obsolete," the Altarian representative said, with dawning horror. Ambassador Hyunwoo shook his head. "No," he replied calmly. "You made yourselves obsolete. We are simply showing the galaxy what is possible when species work together instead of competing for dominance." President So Young appeared on the main communication screen from Alliance headquarters, her image projected to every seat in the chamber. "You taught us an important lesson when you expelled us," she said, looking directly at each council member. "You showed us that fear makes people do terrible things, that established power will always try to crush anything that threatens it, that true progress comes from embracing change, not fighting it." The president paused, letting her words sink into the stunned silence. "We learned that lesson well. Now we offer that same opportunity to learn and grow to every species in the galaxy. The Alliance welcomes any civilization interested in genuine cooperation and mutual advancement." Captain Dayun activated tactical displays, showing Alliance military capabilities, but the message was not threatening. The displays showed defensive positions, humanitarian missions, and anti-piracy operations. The Alliance was not preparing for conquest. They were demonstrating their commitment to protecting peaceful commerce and exploration. "In 6 months we will be opening the Andromeda Gateway," she announced, "access to an entirely new galaxy filled with opportunities for exploration and discovery. We invite any species interested in genuine partnership to join us. The invitation extends to Council species as well, if they are willing to abandon the politics of domination for the rewards of cooperation." The offer hung in the air like a challenge. The Alliance was not just surpassing the Council. They were preparing to expand beyond this galaxy entirely. They were offering the Council species a choice: join the future or be left behind in an increasingly irrelevant past Council. Speaker Zarthon made one final desperate attempt. "This does not have to mean the end of the Council," he said, his voice pleading. "We could merge our governments, combine our resources, create a unified galactic authority." Ambassador Hyunwoo paused at the chamber entrance and looked back with something that might have been pity. "You had 50 years to work with us as equals," he said quietly. "You chose to see cooperation as competition, friendship as threat, progress as danger. Now you want to merge with what you tried to destroy." He gestured toward the displays still showing Alliance territory and capabilities. "We built something better than what you offered. We created a civilization based on partnership rather than domination. Species join us not because we force them, but because we offer them something you never could: true equality and mutual respect." Dr. Oke-sun added her own final statement. "The Alliance Medical Consortium will continue providing free healthcare to any world, regardless of political affiliation. Our research stations will share scientific discoveries with anyone interested in advancing knowledge. Our defensive fleets will protect peaceful traders from piracy." Even in Council spaces, the Alliance delegation prepared to leave, Captain Dayun delivered the final message. "In 18 months, the Andromeda expedition will depart. Any species wishing to participate in genuine exploration and discovery is welcome. The galaxy is vast, but the universe is infinite. We intend to explore it together." 6 months later, as Alliance ships powered up the massive Andromeda Gateway, the Galactic Council held its final session. Most member species had already applied to join the Alliance. The few remaining delegates sat in an almost empty chamber arguing over the remnants of an empire that had collapsed not through conquest, but through irrelevance. The gateway activated with a brilliant flash of light that could be seen across 12 star systems. The first Alliance exploration fleet disappeared into another galaxy, carrying humans and their allies toward adventures the Council could never have imagined. Behind them, they left a lesson that would echo through galactic history. Sometimes the best response to rejection and betrayal is not revenge but success, so complete that your former enemies become irrelevant. Humanity had learned that lesson perfectly. The morning sun rose over Camp New Hope, but Engineer Boram could barely see it through the thick haze of dust and smoke that hung over the massive refugee settlement. 50,000 people were crammed into a space designed for 10,000, and The infrastructure was failing everywhere she looked. The water recycling system had broken down again overnight, flooding 3 sectors with contaminated water. The power grid was operating at 200% capacity, causing regular blackouts. The food distribution centers were running out of supplies faster than Earth could produce them. "This cannot continue," she muttered to herself as she walked through the crowded pathways between the temporary shelters. Families from the mining colonies of Vega were living in prefabricated units barely big enough for 2 people. Children were sleeping on floors while their parents worked double shifts just to earn enough food credits to survive. Dr. Sung Ho had been the head of atmospheric engineering on Kepler 442b, where he had designed air systems for a population of 2 million. Now he was fixing broken ventilation fans in refugee barracks, using spare parts salvaged from garbage piles. But he was not complaining. He was thinking, the ventilation system they are using here is completely wrong. He explained to Boram as they examined another failed unit. It was designed for Earth climate, with Earth air pressure. We are dealing with people from dozens of different worlds. Some of them spent their whole lives breathing recycled air at different pressures, different humidity levels. Boram nodded. She had noticed the same problems with the water systems, the power grids, even the food preparation. Everyone was trying to apply Earth solutions to problems that needed space colony expertise. "What if we redesigned everything?" she asked. "What if we used the methods you developed for Kepler instead of trying to make Earth systems work?" Sung Ho paused his work and looked at her with growing excitement. "We could build something better than anything Earth has ever had. The techniques we developed for surviving in space, those could revolutionize life on Earth too." That conversation was the beginning of everything. Within days, word had spread through the camps that some refugees were working on new solutions. Dr. Yoon-ji, who had managed terraforming projects on 6 different worlds, started designing new agricultural systems that could feed twice as many people using half the land former mining. Director Jae-sung began developing manufacturing techniques that could produce building materials from waste products. Captain Subin, who had commanded orbital defense platforms, started training young Earth natives in combat techniques that combined human tactics with alien technology she had learned to counter. The training programs were unlike anything Earth military had ever seen. President So-young visited the camps regularly, and what she saw amazed her. These were not broken people waiting for government help. These were innovators adapting to impossible conditions and finding ways to thrive. She called an emergency meeting with her cabinet to discuss what she had observed. In the past 6 months, she began the refugees have developed improvements to every major system we use. Water recycling that is 40% more efficient than our best Earth technology. Food production that triples output in the same space. Manufacturing processes that turn garbage into construction materials. Science. Advisor Young-suk pulled up holographic displays showing the refugee innovations. "The advances are incredible," she said. "Fusion power improvements that could revolutionize our energy grid, quantum computing breakthroughs that solve problems we have been working on for decades. Materials science discoveries that make our strongest alloys look like paper." But the most remarkable changes were happening in the people themselves. Families who had lived on different worlds for generations were sharing knowledge they had never combined before. A hydroponics expert from Vega Prime worked with an atmospheric engineer from Kepler Station to create growing systems that could feed entire cities. Jinwoo had spent 20 years managing life support on asteroid mining platforms where every molecule of air and water had to be carefully recycled. Now he was teaching Earth engineers how to build closed-loop systems that wasted nothing. The techniques he had learned from necessity were being applied to problems Earth had never thought to solve. The breakthrough everyone was waiting for came when Dr. Mal-suk announced her discovery. She had been working with a team of refugee scientists to solve the energy crisis that was crippling the camps. Traditional Earth power systems could not handle the massive population increase, but the refugees brought knowledge from worlds where energy was scarce, and every watt had to count. "We have cracked the fusion efficiency problem," she announced to the assembled Refugee Council. By combining quantum field manipulation techniques from the Vega colonies with crystalline energy storage methods developed on Kepler Prime, We have created reactors that produce 3 times more power while using half the fuel. Admiral Tejo reviewed the data with amazement. These are not just improvements. These are revolutionary advances that leap ahead of anything the galaxy has ever seen. But technology was not the only thing changing. The refugees were also transforming human society itself. Captain Haywan, who had coordinated supply lines across dozens of worlds, was now organizing the camps with efficiency that impressed even Earth administrators. Every person contributes according to their abilities, she explained to visiting officials. No one sits idle while others struggle. Everyone teaches what they know and learns what they need. The waste of human potential that we see in traditional Earth society simply cannot exist when survival depends on cooperation. The integration was not without problems. Some Earth natives resented the refugees taking jobs and resources. Others were intimidated by the advanced knowledge and skills the space colonists brought with them. But President So-young was determined to make it work. These people are not burdens, she announced in a nationally broadcast speech. They are our greatest resource. Every human who left Earth to build colonies among the stars has returned with knowledge we never possessed. They have learned to thrive in conditions that would kill most people. They have solved problems we never knew existed. Director Wu Jin, who managed refugee services, was amazed by what he witnessed daily. Former terraforming specialists were turning desert regions into fertile farmland. Engineers who had built cities in the vacuum of space were designing earthquake-proof buildings that could house millions. Biologists who had studied alien ecosystems were developing new medicines that cured diseases Earth had struggled with for centuries. The transformation accelerated when Captain Dongmin established the Integration Council, a governing body that included both Earth natives and refugees working together. The council made decisions faster than any government Earth had ever known, because they focused on practical solutions rather than political arguments. We do not have time for bureaucracy. Captain Dongmin explained to skeptical politicians, our people are adapting to challenges that change daily. We need systems that can evolve as quickly as the problems they solve. Within 18 months, the refugee camps had been transformed into thriving cities. New Seoul, built on the site of the original Camp New Hope, now housed 5 million people and served as the center for interstellar engineering research. New Busan had become the hub for quantum physics, while New Daegu specialized in biological sciences and medicine. But the most important change was in the people themselves. The despair and defeat that had marked the early days of the refugee crisis had been replaced by determination and confidence. Humans who had been scattered across the galaxy had been forced back together, and they were discovering that their combined knowledge and experience made them more powerful than they had ever been alone. The aliens thought they were weakening us, President So-young said during a cabinet meeting, but they gave us something we never had before. They gave us unity. Every human. Innovation from 50 years of space colonization is now concentrated in one place. Every lesson learned from surviving in impossible conditions is being shared and improved. Young refugees who had grown up on distant worlds were teaching Earth, children about technologies and perspectives that would shape the future of humanity. Adults who had managed entire colonies were now working together on projects that could transform human civilization. Dr. Oksun, formerly head of biological research, on 3 different worlds, was leading a team that was developing medical treatments using knowledge gathered from across the galaxy. The cures they were creating would not just help humans but could revolutionize medicine for every species in the galaxy, if anyone was willing to cooperate. As the second year after the expulsion began, President So-young stood before the United Earth Assembly and made an announcement that would change everything. The galaxy expelled us because they feared what humanity might become, she said. But they have given us the opportunity to become something greater than we ever imagined. We are no longer just the species from Earth. We are the species that has learned to thrive anywhere. The time had come to show the galaxy what humanity could really do. The emergency sirens wailed across New Jeju Colony as Captain Su-jin ran through the corridors of the command center. Her boots echoed against the metal floors while colonists rushed past her carrying whatever belongings they could manage. The evacuation order had come just 6 hours ago, and already the spaceport was packed with desperate families. We have 17 transport ships incoming, She shouted to her communications officer over the noise of the alarms. But we have 40,000 colonists to evacuate. The math does not work. Lieutenant Minho looked up from his console, his face pale with exhaustion. Captain, the alien authorities are not giving us the full 72 hours they promised. The Zephyrian patrol ships arrived. This morning they are demanding we clear the system within 18 hours or they will open fire. Su Jin felt her heart sink. New Jeju had been humanity's pride, a thriving agricultural world that fed 12 other colonies. The vast grain fields and orchards had taken 30 years to establish. Now they would all be abandoned to alien hands who probably did not even understand how to maintain the delicate ecosystem. How many people can we get off-world in 18 hours? She asked. Minho checked his calculations again. Maybe 25,000 if we pack the ships beyond safety limits. The rest will have to stay behind and hope the aliens show mercy. There is no mercy here, she replied grimly. The Zephyrians want us gone and they do not care about the details. Send a message to the incoming transports. Tell them to prepare for maximum capacity loading. We are taking every single person, even if we have to strap them to the cargo bay walls. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out on dozens of human worlds. Captain Jae-min was overseeing evacuations on the mining colony of Kepler Station, where 50,000 workers were trying to escape on cargo haulers never designed for passenger transport. The ships were cramped, dangerous, and barely had enough life support for the journey back to Earth, but they were the only option. On the research world of Vega Prime, Dr. Yun-Su was watching 30 years of scientific work being abandoned. The laboratories contained breakthrough research on alien biology, quantum physics, and terraforming technology that could revolutionize space colonization. But there was no time to save the data. The alien authorities had sealed the research facilities and declared all human, scientific work the property of the Galactic Council. This is insane, she said to her assistant as they watched Altarian soldiers march through their laboratory. They are stealing decades of research that could benefit the entire galaxy, just because they are afraid of human progress. Her assistant, Dr. Kyung-ho, was frantically copying data files onto portable drives while the alien soldiers were distracted. Most of our breakthrough discoveries came from cooperation with other species, he said, bitterly. Now they act like we were always their enemies. It makes no sense. Meanwhile, in Earth's Crisis Command Center, President So-young was coordinating the largest evacuation in human history. The massive view screens showed refugee ships arriving from across the galaxy, each one packed with families who had lost everything. The orbital platforms around Earth were overwhelmed, trying to process millions of displaced people. Admiral Tae-ho approached her with the latest reports. Madam President, we have successfully evacuated 38 colonies so far. 9 more evacuations are in progress, but we are receiving disturbing reports from the outer systems. The aliens are not waiting for our people to leave peacefully. What do you mean, she asked, though she feared she already knew the answer. 3 transport convoys have been attacked by alien patrol ships. The aliens claim the human ships were in violation of the 72-hour deadline, but our records show they were well within the agreed time frame. It appears some alien authorities are using the expulsion as an excuse to settle old grudges. The president closed her eyes and took a deep breath. How many casualties? 800 confirmed dead. Admiral Tae-ho replied quietly. Another 2,000 missing, presumed lost when their transport ships were destroyed. The aliens are calling it regrettable misunderstandings during the transition period. Regrettable misunderstandings. President So-young repeated the words with bitter anger. Those are our people who died, our families who will never come home, and the aliens dismiss their deaths as paperwork errors. Young Suk, the chief science advisor, entered the room with her own grim news. Madam President, we have confirmed reports that the aliens are seizing all human infrastructure and technology. The Vorthon Empire has claimed our research stations. The Altarians have taken over our mining operations. They are not just expelling us. They are stealing everything we built on the view screen. Another wave of refugee ships appeared from hyperspace. These were from the furthest colonies, the ones that had barely escaped before alien forces moved in. The ships showed signs of hasty departure. Some had scorch marks. from weapons fire. Others were clearly overloaded with refugees hanging from every available space communications. Director Min Ho stepped forward with an urgent message. Madam President, we are receiving a priority transmission from the Kepler system. Captain Jamin reports that alien forces have surrounded the remaining evacuation ships. They are demanding that all human technology and research be left behind before the ships are allowed to depart. President. So Young felt rage building in her chest. Tell Captain Jamin to comply. We cannot risk more lives over equipment and data. Our people are more important than anything else. But Madam President, Dr. Young-suk protested. Some of that research represents decades of work. It could help us rebuild, and some of those people represent the only family their loved ones have left. The president replied firmly, we leave no one behind. Everything else can be replaced. As the evacuation continued, the scale of the betrayal became clear. Aliens were not just expelling humanity. They were systematically destroying human civilization in space. Every colony, every research station, every mining operation built over 50 years was being seized or destroyed. The message was clear. Humans were not just unwelcome. They were being erased. Captain Dong-hee was commanding one of the last evacuation fleets when the Cathera attack ships appeared. His convoy was carrying refugees from 3 different worlds, and the ships were packed beyond capacity with families who had nowhere else to go. Human vessels, you are in violation of Council airspace. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. The alien commander hissed over the communication channel. We are conducting authorized evacuations under the Council decree. Captain Dong-hee replied. We have 18 hours remaining on our deadline. The deadline has been revised. Your presence is now considered hostile. Captain Dong-hee looked at his tactical display. The alien ships outnumbered his escorts, 3-1. But behind him were civilian transports carrying 50,000 men, women and children who had already lost everything. All ships prepare for emergency jump to hyperspace, he ordered. The safety of the civilians is our only priority. The alien ships opened fire as the human fleet jumped to safety. Weapons fire lit up space like deadly fireworks, but the human ships escaped. The refugees were safe, but the message was clear. The aliens wanted humanity gone, and they were willing to kill to make it happen. Back on Earth, the refugee camps were growing by the hour. Temporary shelters stretched across continents as families who had lived among the stars for generations tried to adapt to life on their homeworld. Many had never even seen Earth before. Their children spoke with accents from distant worlds and knew more about alien cultures than human history. But in the midst of the chaos, something remarkable was happening. The refugees were not just victims. They were bringing knowledge and experience from across the galaxy. Engineers who had built cities on airless moons, farmers who had grown crops in alien soil, scientists who had unlocked the secrets of distant stars. They were all coming home. President So Young walked through the refugee camps and saw not defeat but potential. These people had thrived in the harshest environments the galaxy could offer. They had learned to survive and prosper on worlds that would kill most other species. They had adapted to challenges that alien races had never even imagined. We are not broken, she said to her cabinet that evening. We are concentrated. Every human who ever left Earth to explore the galaxy is coming back home. They are bringing skills, knowledge, and determination that we never had before. Admiral Tejo nodded slowly. The aliens think they have weakened us by forcing us together, but they may have just made us stronger than we have ever been. The evacuation was almost complete. The final transport ships were arriving from the most distant colonies, and the last human presence in Council space was being withdrawn. But this was not an ending. It was a beginning. The galaxy had just forced humanity to gather all its scattered strength in one place. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had united humanity,